I'm James Helder. Welcome to Full Court Football 24. Quite privileged to be joined by former Walton Hersham, Bristol Rovers, Wigan Athletic, West Bromwich Albion, Watford, Derby County, Skoda Zante, Preston North End, Ipswich Town, Scunthorpe United, Crewe Alexandra and Southport star Nathan Ellington. The Duke, what's happening, man?
All good, man. All good. It's funny to hear all of them names of every club I've been at. Just you don't realise how many clubs you've been at till you get it reeled off like that. So it's nice.
I want to look back on your career journey today, on how you got to the places and teams that we've spoken about. But before that, I think it's only fair that we touch on what's going on a little bit. Firstly, you and your family and everyone okay? Everything's all right?
Yeah, everyone's fine. We're just all obviously at home and just getting on with life, trying to get some kind of organisation of the daily routine going, really. That's the hard part. That's the challenge, I guess, for everyone who's got family, especially. Trying to get them doing their homework and making sure that they're still doing, some kind of PE. I'm doing my own thing as well. So yeah, it's been nice to actually get through this, as obviously not knowing that, but basically from inside, it's been nice. But outside, obviously, we know what's going on out there. So hopefully it gets better soon so we can get back to normality.
Real testing times for everyone, but I'm glad you and your family and everyone's all right.
Yeah.
How did you get the nickname the Duke? Where did that come from?
Came from my surname, Ellington. So I didn't know until I was at Walton and Hersham, and the manager there, he was calling me Duke, and I was wondering why. But obviously, because I joined and he knew my name was Ellington, all he was thinking about was the jazz musician Duke Ellington.
Really?
So yeah, so he just always called me Duke. And what's funny is I moved to Bristol Rovers, which was my first professional club, and everyone was calling me the Duke. So it must have, someone doing some kind of reporting must have found the nickname from the time down at Walton and Hersham and brought it onto the Bristol Rovers days, and it stuck with me from then. So great. Thanks for the manager for bringing that in for me.
Interesting information. Before we get involved in the Bristol Rovers days, I want to talk a little bit about your upbringing. I know you was born in Bradford.
Yeah.
And then you spent a lot of time in South London as a youngster. So
yeah.
Talk me through those early days, if you like, from yourself and your family dynamic and what life was like for yourself growing up.
To be fair, I was, from as early as I can remember, I don't remember obviously being born at that young age, but I do remember being in London in Clapham. So I grew up in Clapham with my two brothers. So my mum, she moved down to London from Bradford from when I was one and a half or something. So we lived there, and I just lived with my two brothers. So that was how it was growing up. And it was lovely, to be fair. It was great to have two brothers to look up to, two older brothers. So I was the youngest of the three. And obviously they used to keep me in check and used to bully me at times and stuff. But it was always great because there was always people to, someone to do something with. When you have a son, I had my first son, just going back to that, when he was born, he had 5 years on his own. So we have to, look after him and help him all the time. But so knowing that I had my two brothers there, it was nice to have them to look up to and obviously understand exactly how to basically show the ropes of what to do as you're growing up. So it was good. But I didn't even really play football too much at the young ages. But one thing I do remember is how I got that competitive streak inside me. There's one thing that I remember from my mum. When I was about 5, I'm sure I was about 5, my mum challenged me to a race on the street, like where I lived. I used to live in some flats. So downstairs at the street, we was walking to the shop, I think. And she said, let's have a race. I was like, okay, then let's go. So I raced my mum and she beat me. So I'm happy she beat me, obviously now. But at the time, I was so angry that she won. I was like, no way. She beat me. I can't have this. So that's the first time I remember the competitive streak got inside me. And I'm sure if she'd let me beat her, it might have not come at that point anyway. So that was a nice point that I always remember in my head of how I got it. And I always try and do that with my kids. So my son growing up now, he was playing football. We play in a garden and stuff. And he wanted to go in goal. I wouldn't shoot the ball at him really soft. and I wouldn't let goals in for fun easily, I make it a little bit hard for him. I make it so his reflexes got to be a lot faster to save a ball. And it works. It's funny because he's not playing now in goal, but he went in goal and within 6 months, Man City scouted him and took him on. He was there for 6 months from just because his reflexes were so good, and that's probably down to me shooting the ball a lot faster than kids his age would be shooting. So that's the kind of madness that that you get, these little things that you got to take with you and push on. That might be a little bit of a different story from anyone else telling their story of when they're growing up.
Brilliant. I'm just picturing you pinging balls at your 6-year-old. I'm just picturing his little face now, thinking, what is going on? What is this? What is this all about? Funny.
Well, you do get, the parent, like my wife's going, why are you hitting the ball at him so fast? I'm like, well, it's got to be done. Not too fast to hurt him or anything, but, a bit faster than other kids could do.
Of course. What was your first experience of grassroots football, playing sort of competitively? Because games would have been competitive from an early age back then. What was your first sort of introduction to the game?
When the first I can remember playing, I used to play all the time with my friends and stuff. But when it came to playing for a team, the earliest I can remember was year 9 in school. So I was playing basketball before. I used to play basketball with all my friends, and we didn't used to play football. I was a little bit bad at school, meaning not doing my at the first school that I went to. And all I was interested in was playing basketball and football. But because I wasn't doing so much in school, what they used to do is say, you're not allowed to play on the football team because you're not doing your work. So I never even, concentrated on anything to do with the football side. But what happened was a friend of mine who was in a football team on Clapham Common, it's a Sunday league. I can't remember what the league's called now, but we was in the Sunday league there. I know my team name and I know a few other team names. But he was playing for his team, and he used to train at my school, which was Chestnut Grove in Balham. I don't know if you know it, but it's a Chestnut Grove school in Balham, and that's where his training was. And we went to visit him at his house one day, and me and my mum were visited, and then we had dinner, and he was talking about he plays for a team. And I was like, I want to play for a team. Can I come down and train with your team? He's like, yeah, come down. I'll tell the manager, and I'm sure he'll let you train. So I went down, and I played. Obviously, I believed in myself. I don't know what it was, but I always believed in myself to be a good player. I trained with them, but they didn't want me. So they just said, yeah, you can't come back. So what happened was, end of that season, there's a trials for the whole league. The way they do it, they do a whole league, and all the managers come on the Clapham Common, and they all watch the players, and they choose certain age groups. So there's like one age group, another age group, and another age group, and you have to choose a certain amount from each age group to play within your team. And so obviously so every team kind of gets a chance to be one of the best. It's pretty much like basketball, NBA in America. Not one team can always be the best because of their system. So straight away, team scouted me, Starlight Miners they were called, in a light blue kit, and I ended up signing for them. And obviously my friend was playing for the other team, which they didn't take me on. And I ended up playing in midfield, actually. I was a centre midfield player, and I used to just do whatever I wanted, get forward, score goals, help defence, play cross balls in with our left foot, right foot. It was a bit weird, but I just enjoyed it. And I think we won the cup that year. We didn't win the league. We wasn't good enough to win the league. But that year, my manager at that club, he said, look, you're too good. You can definitely become a pro. I want to take you down to Crystal Palace. So he took me to Crystal Palace, and I went there, and I was like, okay, this is great. I think it's is it Rains Park? I think they used to train up at Rains Park. I think it was Rains Park anyway. So I went up there and trained with them for a little while, and then they played me in some games. But then I ended up playing at the back for them. It's like centre back. So I was thinking, what's this? What's going on? And at this stage, remember at them days, there was no mobile phones. So you didn't just have a mobile phone. You could call someone and, get someone pick you up or anything. And we wasn't really like rich family. So we didn't have much. So I used to sometimes get the bus up there and get the bus back. And I remember one time, what made me leave this place is so weird. I'm thinking back now, it's so weird what happened. I used to train there and play thinking, yeah, this is a great club. It's a pro club. If I can obviously do well here, I'll be okay. I'll go pro. But one day, I remember it was Sunday, and I was at the bus stop, and it was raining so hard. I was just sitting at the bus stop for about an hour and a half, and no bus came. So to take me up to training, I was like, I'm going home. I went home. I wasn't able to call anyone. I didn't have a phone. I don't remember having a number for anyone to call either. And I didn't go back. I just didn't go back.
Really?
It was that weird. Like, I don't know what age I was. I don't know exactly what age. I must have been 13, 14 or whatever. And I just didn't go back. So it was a bit weird. And so from then, I ended up playing for my school team because I moved to a new school called Christ School in Richmond. And that was like a new start for me. Year 10 and 11 was my last 2 years of school. And my mum was getting a bit concerned because I wasn't doing anything apart from bunking off school and playing basketball all day and coming home at the end of the day like I've been at school. So she moved me to a school which was about an hour and a half away from my house. So imagine I live in Tooting and I had to get on the train, the first train in the morning, like the 7:30 train to Clapham Junction. Then from Clapham Junction, get another train all the way to Richmond. So North Sheen, the stop before Richmond, and then walk to school. So that was my day, every day. And I ended up playing for the school team there and did really well for them. And that coincided with the Sunday League as well. So I was doing the Sunday League for the second season, and I was also playing for the school team year 10 and 11. And that's where I got called up for Surrey Schools. So at this point, I was at Surrey Schools, and I was playing for school, and I was playing for the Sunday team. And they put me in the midfield as well, because the manager told me I was too good to play up front. I had too much energy to play up front. And there's other players that were really skillful that were playing up front as well. So he wanted to fit me in the team. And he just said, look, you're best in midfield. So that's what I always thought I was. I had dreads, like my hair cut underneath, but I had long dreads, long plaits actually, which used to get obviously done by my mum and my friends every now and again. But so I used to be called Rude Hullet because I could jump high, I could header the ball really well, and my hair was just like Rude Hullet. So them were the days where obviously it was really fun to play. And that's what brings me on to the time where I then went to Tooting and Mitcham. And we was playing at Tooting and Mitcham youth team. We had a really, really good youth team. We got quite far in the Youth Cup, FA Youth Cup. We went to Maidenhead and played at that stadium. And that's the first time I ever got to see a carpet pitch. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this in my life. But I wish I can play on like this, because all I'm used to is like a Figs Marsh, where the grass is really bad, and the Tooting and Mitcham pitch where you can see like the grass is all cut up. That's the first time I ever saw a pitch that looked like a lawn. Like I was just like gobsmacked that this is what you can play football on. Imagine the ball will never bounce wrong. And it was just like, it's the best feeling ever to know that you could play on a pitch like that. And so I was at the Tooting and Mitcham youth team with a lot of the good players, like I said, and their manager wanted me to go and play for the reserve team, which was men's football. At this stage, I think I was just turning 15, and he says, look, we want you to play for the reserves. So I remember playing one game for the reserves, and what happened was I was so obviously I'm not used to playing with men in a competitive match. So I came on off the bench, and I was a little bit all over the place. I remember the ball was on the floor, and I just tried to kick it while I was on the floor, not realizing I've got enough time to get back up and carry on playing. But what happened was I went and played another game for them at home this time on the home ground. And I remember getting injured. So I remember that the stadium was at the other end of Figs Marsh, and I used to live at the other end. And I remember getting injured in the middle of a game, and then they just left me to walk. I came off the game at the end in the game, and I had to walk home on my own. And I remember I was injured, and I was thinking, how comes nobody's just taking me home? I'm injured. I'm walking all the way back here. It's like a mile and a half to get back home, and I'm in pain. Like, no one's helped me. The game's going on. No one's just taking me home. So I was like, listen, I'm not going back. I'm not going back there. And I ended up speaking to a few of my friends. One of my friends is Gavin Holligan, and a friend of mine who used to live on Figs Marsh, Italian guy called Fabio. So basically, they had already played. They were playing. They already moved to Walton and Hersham youth team, and they were on fire. So they had a player who plays just like Beckham. They had a striker who plays just like Shearer. They had Gavin Holligan, who obviously went to went to West Ham, and he got bought by West Ham. He was at Kingstonian and a few other places, and he got bought. But me and him were pretty similar in terms of what we were doing at the time. So when I went to Walton and Hersham, I went there, and that's when I became a striker, just for that second half of the season. So it's like from December till the end of the season, they were top of the league, about to win the cup and everything. And I think I scored around 23 goals from that December to the end of the season. And Gavin had like 56 goals. So me and him were like potent partnership up front. We had a great team all over. And at the end of that season, that's when the manager there told me that he wants me to move on to the first team. And that's when Gavin went to West Ham. So for me, when I first went to that new school, Chestnut Grove, Christ School, the minute I walked in there, I said to everybody, I'm the best at football straight away. And one of my friends, one of the guys now, obviously, who was at the school, is like, who's this guy think he is coming in first day saying he's the best? I said, listen, I'm the best. I'm just the best. It was just a confidence that I feel like I'm going to be the best. And I was the best while I was there. And I did get a nickname because I was good at everything. I don't know if I want to use it, say what it is. It was Super N. Yeah. So Super N. You obviously the name that you don't want to use in obviously in public these days, to call yourself a black person. But yeah, that's what I was called at school. And that's because I was good at basketball, good at football, good at high jump. I got the record for schools and high jump.
All-rounder then, an all-round sportsman.
Yeah, because high jump, I broke the record, which was held from years ago.
Do you think your basketball, your high jump, being good at these sports athletics really helped your football, the cross-training as well, where you're not constantly just doing one sport and working with your legs, for instance? The ability to train,
I think so,
and work different muscles and stuff.
Yeah, I think so, because at the end of the day, that's what you need in a game. And one of the things that I was known for was being able to leap high and win headers and score goals from with the ball's really high. So that really helped me in my game. And actually coming back, even if I go back now to the days when I really loved football, like during the 6 weeks holidays, I'd play every day in the park, like all day. I'd go to my friend's house. So you come into the park, they'll be like, yeah, I'm coming in a bit. I'll meet you down there. And I remember it'd be raining and I'd be just there shooting the ball at the goal. And I remember the goal was a tree and another tree. And behind it was a tennis court with not even a high gate fence. So when you hit the ball over, you have to run all the way around to pick up your one ball, which I only had, and go get it and then run all the way back and start shooting. So that was me on the week. That was me like practicing. And what I would do, I don't know if anyone else was like this, but what I would do is when I was watching Premiership games, I used to watch the Italian League, on Channel 4. And I used to watch all these players, and I used to want to copy all the good things about every player that I liked. So with Del Piero, for example, he was my favorite Italian player. Baggio, them kind of players. But Del Piero, when I was growing up, I used to see him as the best technical player. I was thinking, this guy is not even that fast, but everything he does, he just focuses on the technical side, like making sure it's a pinpoint cross. His penalty is a top corner every time. his free kicks are always going where he wants them. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get that mindset and take that from his game. Then I used to look at Shearer and go, man, this guy can head. He heads with power. Hullet, he heads with power. I'm going to take that and I'm going to practice that. And then when Beckham came up, you could see how he was taking his free kicks. I'd go to the park, put the ball down, stand like 90 degrees and hit balls all the time, trying to get the ball just like him. And then Ronaldo, R9, who's my favorite ever player, I think he's the best ever, like in terms of as a player, there's no one better than him. In terms of longevity of what they've done in their career, obviously people have done more, but in terms of a player, if you want someone on your team at their best, there's no one better than R9. So what I looked at him is this guy dribbles at 100 miles an hour with all the skill in the world, and with all the close control in the world. This guy's too good, left foot, right foot, got all the skills. So I used to copy, when you used to get one-on-one, you used to do one step over and push it. So I used to just copy that one skill. That's part of my game. I'm taking that from him. And then I used to dribble 100 miles an hour. That's how I got really good at dribbling with my left foot and my right foot. So I would just take things from every player, every single player that I could see something great in them. I'd try and steal it. And I always wanted to be two-footed, good enough with my left and good enough with my right. The way I got good with my left foot was I actually hurt my right foot, but I still wanted to play football. So I went in the garden. I remember going in the garden and playing all left foot, everything, touch, turn, spinning, everything, dribbling, all left foot for about 2-3 weeks. And that's what got me to a level where I can actually cross a ball, take a free kick, take a corner. I can do everything with my left foot now. Take a strike, hit the ball wherever I want with my left foot as well as my right. So they're the kind of things I thought, and the way I thought as a football player growing up, and the way I really enjoyed it that much, that it was just a thing of let me master all these things and make it all me. I don't know, there's a game where, what's it called? Like a character, he takes all the other characters' abilities and puts them all into himself. It's a bit like that, and that's what I wanted.
Bit like Space Jam, the film. I've been watching that with my boys recently, where they touch the ball, they get the powers from the top players.
Exactly. Or like Heroes. There's that guy who, as soon as he gets near one of them, he's got their ability, he takes it off them. That's the kind of thing. So, yeah, that's what the kind of things that went through my head at the times of growing up and getting through to the levels. And then I obviously fast forward back to the time of, where was I now?
Yeah, cool. It's about this time you're playing good enough for Waltham Nersham. 23 goals in one season. The team's lighting up the league, doing well in the cup. We see Bristol Rovers come in for you, which is quite interesting. 150k transfer fee paid, which is quite a big fee for a club like that to pay Waltham and Nersham for a player. Talk me through that period and everything that went on around it.
Right. So that was actually the time when Waltham Hersham paid for me 150,000. That's when it was a record fee for a non-league player at the time as well. So obviously I didn't know that until after I'd moved. And it didn't really affect me at all. But the way this happened was at the end of the season from the youth team, I got pushed into the first team. I remember the manager telling me, look, you come here, you play for the first team and you'll be gone in no time. So I signed a deal with them, semi-pro contract. And then I was doing my college work at the same time for about, 4 or 5 months. I remember playing at Sutton United and getting told that there was like 20 scouts there watching. It was for the final 5 or 6 games, there was scouts from every team pretty much there. And I never expected to actually go anywhere other than London. So my head never thought about football outside where I lived. I just thought whichever team takes me, I'm just going to be able to go from home and drive there, whatever. But I just felt like it's going to happen. But when it happens, I don't know. And I remember getting told that Bristol wanted me. So at the time it was called, I just heard the name Bristol. I didn't know anything about lower league teams, to be honest. I only watched Premiership and the top leagues everywhere around the world. Obviously, as a youngster, most people, they just watch the top teams. So I only watched Premiership and supported Man United since I was like 5. just because my brother supported them, my uncles, my cousins supported them. So I decided to support them from then, but it just stayed with me since. And so what happened was so one of the guys who basically was helping me, he wasn't really an agent, but he basically said, look, Bristol want you. What would you do? Would you want to go? How much would you want to go there? And I was like, Bristol? Where's Bristol? And I went and got the newspaper and I checked for the Bristol team. I was like, wait a minute, there's 2 Bristol teams. Which team is it? Like, is it the Bristol City team? Is it the Bristol Rovers team? At this point, Bristol Rovers were in Division 2 and Bristol City were in Division 1. So naturally, I was thinking, I wonder if it's the Bristol City or the Bristol Rovers. I was thinking, I hope it's the higher one. I don't know nothing about these teams, but whichever, it doesn't really matter. But would I really want to leave home? That was the first time I ever thought I may have to leave home. I was like, I don't want to leave home. They'd have to pay me this much to go. I think it's like £600 a week. I said, look, they'd have to pay me like £600 a week to go. Because at this point, I was just working at McDonald's and just got a new job actually, about to work for Tesco near my area. So at that point, I remember he came back to me and says, yeah, they'll offer you it. And I was like, well, I'm actually got to go. Okay. So this is the first time I realized I'm going to be going. I'm actually going to be going to Bristol. So I went over to Bristol, had a chat with the manager and everything, and I ended up signing. And I went back home, got all my stuff. And I remember my agent giving me a bit of money to get myself set up and make sure I've got bits and pieces. So it's a brand new agent, like just setting up as well. So at the time, it was really nice of him. And the first time I ever had, I think it's like £1,000 check. And I was like, I've never had £1,000 in my life. I can't believe this. He's like, helped me out like this. Unbelievable. And anyway, so I ended up staying in the training ground, had a hotel right there. It's at the Beaches training ground. And that's the Beaches Hotel in Bristol. So I went there, stayed in one of the rooms, and I had like my little hi-fi set there, and all my belongings in bags and stuff. And when I first woke up and I went into training, Jason Roberts was standing there saying, welcoming me straight away, wanted to welcome me. And it's nice because I never knew anything about pro football. I've never been in that kind of situation where I'm actually playing and I'm at a club. I know I did also have a brief training at Millwall just before going, and they didn't take me on even though I scored on trial and I did really well in training. I also went to Fulham on trial with Kevin Keegan and all, like, they remember the days of Betsy and all them boys who were playing there. They had a really good team, the team that went up just before they went up that season. So that was an eye-opener to how football was. But this was like me actually signing at a club. And it was just great, to be honest, to know that I can relax and that someone is there to greet me. I never knew what anyone was going to be like or anything like that. And we found out, funny enough, that he went to Christ School. So he's obviously 2 years older than me. And he went to Christ School 2 years before me. So my PE teacher and his PE teacher, same teacher. And then also Clinton Morrison went to the same school. So it's weird, like we had a few players who came from that same one school to become pro. So that's what I found out. And I ended up moving in with him, actually. Moving in with Jason Roberts a few weeks down the line. And obviously making sure that he's looking after me at the time where, I needed someone to basically take me in and show me the ropes. And he did that, to be fair. And I'm forever thankful for that.
Someone needs to find a PE teacher at Christchurch and give him a pay rise. Three Premier League stars within 3 or 4 years. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, Mr. Greenwood, his name was.
Greenwood. You're watching Mr. Greenwood. We hope you're doing well. And the lad should send you a little bit of a drink or something, mate.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Let's talk a little bit about suffering that disappointment, because I wasn't aware that you had trials at Millwall or Fulham before getting here. So how did you handle not going to these places, impressing, and not getting a deal, not getting that reward for your hard work?
To be fair, you know what? It's just like you're used to going on trial and stuff. It's like normal. Like I knew I was already good, and I knew there's politics. Like I didn't even think of it like that. I just thought of, I've killed it, I've scored, went in training, I've done well. They haven't signed me. Cool, no problem. I'll go and make it happen somewhere else. Went to Fulham, did really well, trained really well with them as well. Never, I had the first feeling of chest burn when I played the 5-a-side. I think it was like 4-a-side, and it was the toughest game I ever played in. Like the fitness levels were ridiculous. So that was the first time I had to get used to that. But I didn't train there for too long. I must have trained there 1 week, down in I can't remember where it was now. Can't remember the name of the area, but I can't remember. It's near in between Wimbledon and Kingston. What's the area before that? That's where they used to train, isn't it? And basically, I didn't end up getting taken on by them, but it didn't hurt. It just felt like a great experience, and that it's not gonna knock anything. It's my career is already gonna be there. It was just in my head that I was gonna make it. Like I don't know what I was thinking, but looking back, all I can remember is I'm gonna become pro anyway. Like wherever it is, I don't know where it is, but I'm going pro. Like I'm this good. And it wasn't like an arrogance thing. It was just a thing of when you're at the level where you feel like you can do what you want on the pitch, you kind of get that feeling of confidence that I'm going where I know I want to go. And it's just a matter of time before somebody makes that happen. And that's how it was. And my mum really helped me with like positive mental attitude. She always says, positive mental attitude. Make sure you write down your goals, put them on your wall, look at them every day and work towards what you're looking for. So I used to obviously put down how many goals I would score and how many goals I'm going to score, and then tick them off, like how many goals I'm going to get to them goals. That was me. And I always used to count how many goals I scored, how many assists I had. I was just from day one, I've always looked at wanting to just continually score goals and make assists. And actually, I've missed out a major part of the football that I used to play in my area. There's this boys' brigade. It's a church. Like they got the activities for the church. It's on Longley Lane. When you come from Tooting at the top of Tooting Junction train station, you just go straight down the first road, and you go down, and the church, the first church there, right next to the train station. That's where we used to do all different activities, football, athletics, camping, everything. And they taught us a lot in terms of character building, manners, and also obviously getting to play with all the kids from the area who were really good. And it kept us all off the street, from doing anything silly. And then we had one of the best teams. It's called 70th London. We were 70th London Boys Brigade, and we won everything. We had some of the best players of all these age groups. And I feel like I got a lot of my ability from them days as well, because we used to play this indoor, and like the wooden indoor, and it used to be all v all. And I used to be playing against big, strong kids. And it's all everyone versus everyone, and you have to score, and obviously, and then you stay in. It's like World Cup. And we used to play that all the time and get knackered. And that's where I think I learned like a lot of my off-the-cuff skills. And I brought it into my game when I went pro as well.
How influential was Jason Roberts to you settling at Bristol, and how important of a role do you think he played?
Jason Roberts played a massive role in a lot of the good that happened in my career, to be honest. As soon as I got there, like I said, at Bristol Rovers, on the first day he was there to greet me. I lived with him. I learned from him. I learned how to finish a much better from watching him. So I remember even in training, watching him and Jamie Curran. These guys were amazing, like amazing. And they were great people to look up to, because I was just coming in from non-league, not knowing anything about awareness of players around me, how to touch a ball in the, to make it the best way to touch a ball to get goals. That was me starting to learn my trade there. I was just a raw football player coming from non-league, no knowledge whatsoever of football, up back through nothing. I had nothing but the ability to score goals. And that was me. And Bobby Zamora, he was there at the time. So me and him killed it in the youth team. We used to play in Bath. So me and him used to play together there.
Really?
It was great. But Jason, in terms of at that point from there, it was about looking at these guys scoring goals against the keeper, goal after goal. And I was there going, how are you guys scoring? Because I know I'm a good shooter. I can shoot the ball real hard. I can hit the ball. But they were just slotting balls in the corners. And I was like, how comes I can't slot the ball and score as many as these guys? They're always beating me. And, when you got a little, the strikers go in the corner and do finishing, they're always beating me, scoring more goals. So I had to learn the techniques of whipping the ball, getting your body side on it. And that's how I learned how to score, obviously, different angles and different techniques of shooting. And obviously to already have something that I naturally have, which is the power, left foot and right foot, to strike a ball wherever, that was something I already had over them, really. But then they had that where they've been taught how to actually finish, which I didn't have. And I learned from them, watching them in games. I played my first season, I was just really watching. I think I played around 4 starts and I was on the bench in every other game. I was watching Jason Roberts and Jamie Curitan both score goal after goal in the league. So it was great to be able to watch that and know what I have to do when I get on the pitch. There's not really many better players to learn from. And not only that though, it's to know that they want the best for you as well. They're not selfish. Like throughout the rest of my career, you can see other strikers, they have a selfish mindset of me. I need to score. The ball goes out to the wide so I can get in the box and score a goal. Not he's in a better position, let me put him in. There's 2 options. Can put him in and score, or you can put this guy on wide so he can cross the ball in for me. So they're the differences. And that's why you don't see too many great partnerships in football in terms of strikers. They're too selfish.
Interesting. Very interesting. I want to talk about your professional debut for Bristol Rovers. Big moment for yourself. What did it feel to be named? I know you've been named in the squad a few times leading up to the debut, but was you aware that you were going to get on when you made your debut?
I think the first time I was on the bench, I came on, but I just remember the first time being in the tunnel about to come out. That's a memory that there's little memories that I always remember throughout my whole career. Like I said, my mum giving me the race, little things that happen. But this is another little thing that happened where I had my kit on, I was in the tunnel and I stood there not going out because I was like, wow, it's my first game. There's all these people outside. I'm a bit nervous to go out because it's going to be a crowd, like a big crowd watching to see me coming out to clap for me. So I kind of soaked it all up and then I went out and obviously all the nerves went when you go on the pitch and you start training. It just feels like, wow, finally got to the stage where I want to be. I want to be playing in front of lots of people. I want to be playing on a good pitch. I'm now at a stadium playing for my career. And that was just a great moment to just walk out on the pitch, like I said. And then to come on was also great. I don't remember too much about the first game, but I do remember a lot about the third sub appearances. That's where I scored my first goal. And Ian Holloway, who's the manager, he's a player manager at the time, he put me in down the right, took a touch. I was on the edge of the right side of the box, right on the edge of the box. And I looked up, I looked in the corner, and I thought, I'm going to strike this bottom corner. And somehow I managed to strike it, the sweetest strike, the lowest strike, like a grass cutter, that goes right in the side netting, right in the corner. And that's my first goal, and I'm off the mark. So it was like the best feeling ever. I've uploaded it to YouTube as well, so it's somewhere on there.
You beat York 2-0 that day as well. Great result for the
Yeah.
team. Everybody was talking about you at that time. You're receiving so much praise. I mean, you scored that hat-trick as well against Derby, which is quite unheard of for like a league. I think it's a League Two team to beat a Premier Division side at that time as well. Quite interesting. Talk me through that period.
Yeah, well, obviously that was after a year when Jason Roberts moved on, Curitin moved on. That was my time to then become a first team player at Rovers and obviously start playing week in, week out. And I think the first season we had so many changes, so many manager changes, so many player changes. I think I had 14 different strike partners through one season, and we got relegated. But there was the next season, which was actually we was in the lower league, so I think it was Division 3. It was called. Because remember it's League 2 now, but that was the old Division 3. So we were in Division 3, and that's when we got that far to playing against Derby. And again, there's a player, Ravanelli, that I used to watch with his shirt over his head in Channel 4. And I'm there playing against this guy. And I'm thinking, wow, I get to play against this guy now. And that season, I was just on fire, to be honest. I think I had 3 hat-tricks in a month. But that was the first of the 3 hat-tricks in a month. That's what led me on to moving to Wigan. But yeah, playing there, again, playing at Derby, great stadium, great pitch, good players, the Premiership team. And I just thought, I remember driving up there. I think I drove up there myself that game, and I was allowed to go back home after as well. So my friends came and watched the game, and it was just a great night. Just being able to score a great goal as well. One of the 3 goals was a long ball right up to me. I was not even facing the goal. I chested it on the turn and volleyed it straight away into the bottom corner. And I was just like, wow, I actually imagined that. Like, I imagined everything that happened. It's weird because obviously sometimes you touch the ball and you don't want it to go where you want it. But that one there is a long ball. You chest it, turn and volley, all in kind of one movement. And it's just like that feeling again when I'm thinking back to the park where I was thinking about all these other players that you've seen play and what they're doing. And you kind of like imagine yourself being them. That was me. The ball coming, I was like, I'm going to chest this, turn, bang. And I did it. And I was like, wow, it's done, So it's the power of, I think that there's a lot in football that goes to the power of confidence and that positive thinking, which makes you even better player. Now, I don't know what it is, but when your confidence is low, you don't think you can control that ball, or you just control it and bring it down because you just want to control it. But when you're in the top feeling and you're feeling like you can do anything, that's you then. You're thinking, I'm Ronaldo. I can test this turn and volley it. And that's what happened. And that's why I think throughout my career at the beginning, you see it's like this because everyone was all on my side. Everyone was loving me. I was playing every week. Confidence is there. You're playing every week. You're fully fit. You can do what you want and you can try things. And that's when the best of you comes out and then even better of you comes out. It's like you're playing higher than yourself. It's weird. But there's the mind that gets you higher than your actual ability. And that's, again, I see little things like even I play FIFA even now. But FIFA is similar. Like you see them, they have their normal stats, but then they have their online stats where when they're playing well, they get some better stats. Same like real life. Players like that. And I think I can remember like David Nugent, when he first burst on the scene, people didn't think he was anything amazing, but I think his mindset was what made him a lot better than what his stats would say. He was playing so well. He got in the England squad.
I remember.
He was playing that well because he was just on it, and his mind was on it. And maybe that's where his mind went back down to maybe normal or a bit less, and then he wasn't able to sustain playing at the very highest level. And that's the difference with myself and a lot of other players. When your mind isn't strong enough to keep you at that level or above, it obviously takes away a lot from your ability and your performance levels.
You worked a little bit with Ian Holloway, one of the great characters of the game. Some of his speeches and post-talk interviews have become stuff of legend. What was he like in this era, and what sort of interactions would you have with him on a daily basis?
He was amazing, man managing, amazing guy. He always tried ways to make sure that you were playing the best of your ability. Like I said, he was the one that's thinking, what can I do to make the best out of him? Make him be the best and not have any fears of anything. Just feel like you can go out there and express yourself to the best you can be. That's what he was. And he was, you could just see his energy, his will to win. Everything was positive, positive, positive. And he used to leave us, for example, me and Bobby on the training ground, and he would just make sure we learned all these little things. He'd get his assistant coach, who I say is the best coach I've ever had in my career. He actually the one who taught me everything about being a striker, all the little things you need to learn. His name's Gary Penrice, by the way. And I never learned anything as a striker apart from him. There's nowhere else I learned to be a proper striker than from him. And it's weird because throughout my whole career, I've played at so many places under so many managers, but that's where I learned everything. Touch, where to do skills in what area, how to hold players off, how to link up with strikers, where to shoot from, where to do everything. And that's where I got it from. And he would spend time on the field, standing like way back, playing me and Bobby against each other, standing there, and he's playing balls up to us, and we have to hold them off, be on our side, and control it and lay it back and then spin and stuff. We would get so much of that on our own. This is after training's finished, to just make sure we've got these building blocks in as a striker. And that's why you see there was a conveyor belt of strikers at Bristol Rovers. You had the Barry Hales, the Curitan, Roberts, Bobby, me, and all these other players that came during their time. I think they knew exactly how to make a factory of strikers and make them better. Not just have them there and go, be better, but show them exactly how to be better. And that was one thing that Gary Penrice said. He says, one thing telling you to be better, but it's another thing showing you how to be better. And that was, I got to say, it's a priceless thing that I learned from Gary Penrice, who I'll say definitely be the most influential in me becoming a better player. And the improvement it's all down to the information I got from him.
You played 116 times, scoring 35 goals for Bristol Rovers. How much did you enjoy your time with the club, and how much of a learning curve was that time for yourself as a striker and a footballer?
I loved it there. It was the best feeling ever. Obviously under Ian Holloway, and then even Gary Thompson when he took over, and even Jerry Francis took over as well. They all were good managers. I liked them all, and they all liked me, which is a major thing as a football player as well. If you've got a manager that don't like you, you're finished. Your career is good or bad because of your manager. He either lets you become good or he doesn't. And I was fortunate enough to have managers that loved me there. And the fans were amazing as well. And it was my first club, so it was all positive. I look back at that time as all positive. And I just can't. There's nothing negative in my mind when I think about Bristol Rovers. So I'm very thankful for Ian Holloway giving me the opportunity to go there and actually learn my trade. Again, I learned everything. Everything I knew, I learned there. It was my learning time. That was my learning period of how to be a striker. Because I remember coming on. I could come on in games, and obviously other players are tired and stuff. But I didn't. Like I said, when I first became a pro, I didn't have all this teaching of awareness, looking over your shoulder before a player comes. I used to get dizzy thinking, looking over my shoulder, then looking back and not realizing what's what. Like, not realizing what I've left, looking behind is like lost my focus on what's in front. So that used to be my thing of how do people do that? How do they turn around? And when do they turn around and look what's behind them and paint a picture of knowing what's going to be what? It's like, it's your IQ, your football IQ is something that I was learning at that point. And it's good because that's the way I see it. I don't know how other people see it. Again, the way I saw it was, it's like a manual, a football manual if your players are in this position or that position, they're going to do that, or you're going to get the best from doing this. So you kind of have to, all them things need to be ingrained in your head for you to then build your football IQ. And that's where I learned it all. I learned a lot of my football IQ from playing there.
At this point in time, you're one of the hottest young prospects around. Like you said, you've got a lot of career hat-tricks already to your name. Your reputation and stature within the game is growing. Paul Jewell comes in, Wigan Athletic, record club transfer bid to take you to the Latics. Was there a lot of speculation and transfer rumours before that deal was signed, and were a lot of interest from other teams, I'm guessing?
At that point, that was the time when I think I'd just scored my third hat-trick against Swansea at home. I think I scored Leyton Orient at home, obviously Derby County before that, and then the last one was Swansea at home. And I know obviously there's a lot of talk going on that, you know, someone's going to come in for you and stuff. But I remember there's a weekend after we won the game, I remember going to, I don't remember how it happened, but I ended up going back to London, where I was from, and going to visit my agents in Sutton, because that's where their base was. And I met them in the office, and they said, we've got a manager we're going to go and see. We're going to go and have a chat with him. Let's go and have a chat with him. He's in London at the moment. He's in a hotel in London. So we'll just go down there. I didn't even think we're going to do anything at that time. I just went there to see him. And I think it's like a day before the end of the transfer deadline. It was a day. It was actually one day before. And he goes, we're going to just go and see what they got to say. So we go to London, right in the middle of London, in a hotel downstairs. It's like next to the Dorchester. I think the Dorchester is like further up. But then the hotel a bit further down as you get to the roundabout. And so I went in and I met Paul Jewell. So I didn't know who he was at the time, but he's talking about Wigan and that they have, so all he says, he obviously took me aside and we had a chat, and he was like, look, I've got a good team, a very good team here, but I think we need that one extra piece who could score goals to take us to the next level so we can get promoted. And I was like, I don't know Wigan. I don't know any teams like that. To be fair, I don't know this Wigan. Where are Wigan? Where is this? Where is Wigan in the world? Like, where is it in England? I'm not sure. In my head, that's what I was thinking. Like, let me have some time to think about this. I didn't realize that the transfer deadline was the next day. So he was like, look, we can't wait. Like, deadline's tomorrow. So you're going to have to, you could come with us, come and see the facilities, come and see the stadium, training ground, everything, and make your decision there. At this point, it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock. He's like, look, we got a helicopter. We're going back. The latest we can go back is about 8:30 or something like that. So you just jump in with us and fly up and obviously decide from there. I was like, okay, right. So call my mum, you got to come with me. I'm going to Wigan. This team wants me. You've got to come. Meet me in Clapham, in Battersea now, as soon as possible, because the helicopter's going from Battersea back to Wigan. So we need to leave very soon. So can you get down? She's like, yeah, okay. Bam. She comes down, jump on the helicopter, fly back to Wigan in an hour, land in the chairman's, his grounds. And we just go to the hotel in the night. And I remember sitting in the hotel, upset. I had tears in my eyes. I was thinking, all this time I left London, I wanted to go back to London, back to my home where all my friends are and everything, and play back in London. So from the day I went to Rovers, I was like, I'm going to be back in London soon. I'll sign here, do well, and then I'll get a club back home, and I'll get to move back home and everything. So knowing that I'm moving in the middle of nowhere, thinking that I'm moving to the middle of nowhere, made me a bit more upset, because I knew I was far away from my family at the time. I'm going to be far away from my friends, everyone. I didn't know where I would be. I didn't know. I just didn't check the map exactly where it was. But so that night I was a bit upset. But in the morning, went to the stadium, seen an amazing stadium, massive stadium, amazing pitch, training ground, nice, and obviously getting offered a lot more money than I was at Bristol Rovers. So I was sitting there going, my agent said, look, you've played this league already. You already know the league. You scored in this league. This team's a very good team. You know you can do it. So it's a great move for you to move. So I was like, okay, let's move. I moved there. I signed there. Then obviously went back, got all my stuff and came back up and signed. And that was it. That was me at Wigan from then. So that story there was mad because it was just like not thinking I was going anywhere. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, getting taken up there, signing, and that's me done. So you can imagine, I got my house that I own in Bristol. I got everything there, got my family in London. And one day out of the blue, you have no preparation, and straight away you're up in Wigan, living in Wigan. But I was in a hotel at the time, thinking, where am I going to go? I ended up buying an apartment in Bolton. But my uncle, who I got to come from Bradford, because his son, my cousin, he had him as a pro. So he was Lee Ellington, and he was at Hull City. He was a pro. He was always the one talked about as a player who's going to go pro and stuff. So I always wanted to get my opinion of my uncle, whether it's a good, whether I'm dealt with right and all of that. So I always made sure my uncle was there at the signings for any club, making sure that my agent's doing the job and everything's done properly. And he said, yeah, it's good. And he told me I can stay with him and drive in every morning in Bradford. I was like, oh, great. It's not that far from actually the rest of my family, my dad's side of the family, everyone lives in Bradford. So it was great. I was able to live in Bradford. All my friends, all my family were there. And then I could drive into training at Wigan. So I was like, it's not that bad after all. I'm not far away from everyone that I'm going to know. This is great. So that was me. I ended up, staying in my uncle's until I bought my apartment and moved there. And it was great, to be honest. And obviously moving there was amazing. Again, obviously we'll talk about that in a minute, I guess.
Now, you made an instant impact footballing wise, scoring on your debut for the club away from home, and then scoring the following week on your home debut. So you really settled into life well at Wigan. I'm guessing having the family close by as well, having, like you said, feeling wanted, feeling loved, Paul Jewell spending a club record fee on you to bring you there. Everything seems to be aligning right for you at that time. Talk me through that period.
Yeah, I guess, I signed at the club and I was still on form. So it's like having that form, like I said, that mental feeling of being above yourself already. So I already was, in cloud nine, like thinking, okay, I've signed for this club. I know the levels already. The players are great. I'm going to do well. And everywhere I've been, I've always scored pretty much on my first game or two, whatever. So I went there and I just played. I remember playing the first away game. Manager got sent off in the game.
Really?
And then a player got sent off in the game. Liddell got sent off and the manager got sent off. And it was just 10 men versus them. I think it was Chesterfield away. And I ended up getting the ball on the edge of the box, spinning 360 around three players, then spinning back again, and then hitting it left foot, bottom corner. And we win the game 1-0. So I was like buzzing because, the manager couldn't see his first buy. He knew. And obviously I'm there feeling great because I've won us the game. And I've scored on my debut, pressure off a little bit. And I was thinking, what more can you want, really? I feel great. And it was just a great start to my Wigan career. And then getting to the home game, that was the last game of the season. And then playing in that game, and I remember the ball coming to me, dropping to me, I just span and hit it in. And that was it. It was like, great start. End of the season now. Now I've just been able to kind of get used to knowing the boys a little bit, and then you're off on holiday. So, and then it's time to now recoup and get ready for the start of the next season, ready to push on to go and win the league. So that's where we were. It was a great start, a great feeling. Again, it's like moving on to bigger and better things in terms of the stadium being amazing. I've never played in a stadium like that big and that new, and just knowing that was where the place is going. That's my home ground now to go and do my thing. It's just a great feeling.
Before we come on to the next season, where you guys really did kick on, starting to really achieve things on the pitch, I want to talk a little bit about Paul Jewell. Always from the outside looking in, looks like a manager, a great manager, loves his players. Obviously, that history from being from Liverpool as well. Talk to me about Paul Jewell a little bit.
With Paul Jewell, obviously, I signed at a time where we were a team winning, and I joined and I just scored from day one. So when you got a team winning and you're scoring, I think there's nothing better to have a manager. Obviously, there's nothing that's going to be negative in that relationship, I don't think at all. He was a good manager. He was always hard on the players, making sure that they don't slip up, they don't relax, making sure that we're all on our game. Because what he said was, look, there's something that you got to have. You got ability and you got work. He goes, there's players with nowhere near as much ability as us. But if we can outwork them, we've got ability that's going to shine through, and we're going to be better than most teams on any day. So we've got to make sure we're on it every single game. And I'm happy with whatever the outcome is, because I know your ability will win you the games. And we just hit the ground running, was obviously on fire, scoring goals for fun, winning them pretty much every game. And we ended up winning the league by over 100 points and walking away with it. But at the start of that season, a few games in, that's when my shoulder popped out. Just a few games in, my shoulder popped out. And I was like, wow, I got no feeling in my arm. And it's going to need an operation probably, because this ain't going to go away. And he convinced me to continue the whole season without an operation at the time. I said, look, let's just get through this season. This is the time you become a man. Let's get through this time and get your operation at the end of the season. I said, you know what? Okay, I'll do that. My shoulder must have come out over 50 times throughout that season.
Describe the pain. Describe the pain for no one that's suffered an injury like that. Describe the pain of what it's like when your shoulder pops out and having to put it back in constantly.
Right. So when it comes out, every single muscle that holds your shoulder in is flared up, is inflamed. So any tiny movement you have with your arm, you feel pain, and you can feel the pain in every single muscle. So it's like, oh my gosh, and then you got no strength, no feeling in your arm.
So you'd be uncomfortable when you're sleeping and stuff. You'd be uncomfortable overnight. You'd be uncomfortable when you're training. It's hard to get.
I used to sleep. I'll tell you now, I remember sleeping like this.
Yeah.
Waking up, and I was like, oh no.
Locked.
My arm's out. My shoulder's out. As soon as I touch it, as soon as my muscle fires, it's going to pop out. And it popped out. I was like, oh! And it went straight back in. I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. I'm done. Like, that amount of times that used to happen, and I used to wait, 72 hours for my arm to come back. Like, the strength in it. Like, I couldn't squeeze anything. My arm was gone. So I remember I used to have a strap around my arm and a strap around this arm and my body, sorry. So one around my chest and around my arm, so I couldn't lift my arm higher than like this point here. Otherwise it would come out. It still can come out now. But I've had 2 operations, it's still not great. I can't put my arm like straight up. It's just I can't like put my arm out further than, I don't know if you can see, but it can't go out like this one can go right out. The other one can't. There's much less movement in there because of the operations. But that happened, and it was a massive effect on my game, because imagine you can't jump. You can't jump with your arm up no more. You can't put your arm up and hold people off anymore. You've got to play with your arm down and running. So I used to run with my arm, obviously one arm up and one arm just there. So it's totally different. I had to get used to playing pretty much the whole season with one arm. Ended up still top scorer in the team, so it's still fine. And I know what's when I said, like, I used to always check all my goals, always make sure I've got something to push towards. So every season from Walton and Hersham days, I remember counting the goals every year. So I remember having, like, at Bristol Rovers, having a certain amount of goals, 16 league goals and a certain amount of cup goals. And then moving on to the next season, having 19 goals, and then 21 goals, then 23 goals, then 26 goals the season after. That's a season at Wigan when we went up and I was top scorer in the league. It was 26 goals I remember having altogether. And that's what I mean. I was always trying to strive to beat my last season. Every season I was beating my last season's tally as well. And so that season, obviously Paul Jewell, he's a great manager to have around. He'll give you your time off when you're winning well, when you're doing well. You lose a game, he wouldn't be happy at all. He would be very upset. Really? And he would be, I remember times be like, look, if you're not doing it, I'll get someone else who can.
He would be that blunt about things. Seriously.
Yeah. Seriously. But it keep you on your toes. Make sure you're on it. But the great thing is, with that squad, is the best squad I ever played with, because there were so many captains in that team. So many characters of captain material in pretty much every position. I've never seen anything like it.
Talk to me about some of the other lads in the team and some of the other players.
John Filan started up at the back. John Filan at the back, unbelievable goalkeeper. Probably the best keeper I've played with. Unbelievable character, making sure everyone's on it. He's like he never made mistakes. All season long, no mistakes, no missed kicks, nothing. Like, he always seemed to do everything perfect. And you've got the centre backs. So you've got Matt Jackson, centre back, with Ian Breckin. So Matt Jackson was like the more older head. He was really good defender. And then he's the same character. Then you got Nicky Eden came in at right back. You had Baines coming through left back, Leighton Baines. So he came through as a youngster. But even then we just had so many players. I'm just thinking back now. Thinking right midfield, Gary Teal, who was really fast, very good crosser of the ball. But then you had Andy Liddell up front, who in his head, again, he's the one who taught me, like, the attitude of just continue to keep scoring. Don't think you're happy with 1 or 2 goals in the game. Keep getting goal after goal. Stamp on them. Like, not stamp on them in terms of stamp on them. He's like, when they're down, keep going. Keep getting as many goals as you can. And that stuck with me as well, because in my head, I used to sometimes, because in your head you think, okay, I need a 1-in-2 ratio. If I score a goal, I can relax a bit. I've scored my goal. I know I can, my ratio is still there. But he used to have a different mindset. It was, I've got 1, I need 2, I need 3, I need 4, all in one game. I don't care. If it all can come in one game, I'm getting it all in one game. So that's when my mindset got even more towards his mindset. And again, it helped me to become a lot better in that sense as well. And then you got Lee McCulloch, big guy. Obviously, he was at Scotland. He's played for Rangers. Big player, big character. Jimmy Bullard came in centre midfield. You had so many players. It's Kavanagh came from Cardiff. He was a Per Franson came from Bolton. So you had some names coming in that were people who are established and people who know what it takes to win. And then obviously Jason Roberts jumps on board. Me and Jason up front. They're the kind of players, like, you can see, like, you have strength in certain players. Then you have, like, a few younger players, but the strength is there, like, throughout each section of the pitch. You've got someone there who's going to carry you and make sure that you do well. So it was great.
With that many characters and that many big personalities in the changing room and around the training field, must be some good stories and some good banter flying about.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we all know about Jimmy Bullard. He was the craziest of the lot. And there's countless stories you could say with him, but I guess I got to keep him quiet sometimes. There's a bit too much to say with him. He's crazy. He goes beyond. He's beyond jokes to me. I don't know. He's got a different set of madness. To be fair, people just doing some madness at the club. I remember people trying to. I think I think he betted one of the boys to sniff Tabasco sauce. And oh my gosh, it was Mike Flynn. He's actually managing now at Newport. So what he did, he goes, okay, I'll sniff some. And he went, "Ah!" And his eyes were gone. His head was gone. He's like, give me my money, give me my money. Some madness, man. So just some madness in when we used to go away on pre-season and stuff. Jimmy used to be the maddest guy ever. He used to do a lot of the pranks, a lot of madness and stuff that I ain't even going to mention. Seriously, it's not worth it. I can't mention it. I got to leave him to it. You can ask him.
When Jason Roberts signed for the club, how much of a good move was that for you personally to be reunited with your friend and your striking partner?
Yeah, so with Jason, we never really got to play at Bristol Rovers because I was on the bench learning my game. Him and Curitin were doing really well up front. And every time he went on international duty, that's when I would come in and play a few games. But then when he'd come back, obviously I'll be back on the bench. So we never got to play together, but we always said, and everyone at the club used to say, look, man, you know, I wish you guys got to play together because you guys are friends. You guys are friends off the pitch. You love each other and you want the best for each other. So, you know, if you guys were ever to get to play together, it'd be great. So we used to chat every now and again. And what ended up happening was he was at Portsmouth at the time, I think, and then West Brom. So I don't know in between where he was, but I know he became available. And I was like, listen, you want me to speak to the manager and just say, look, let him know that you're available? Because we ended up bringing in a few other players. We brought in, I think it was Jeff Horsfield at one point. He's a good player, but he's not a player who's going to be a partner. Like I said, there's strikers out there that will score goals, but are they going to be that player who's going to make you go to the next level of getting, you know, maybe him on his own, he'll get 15, 20 goals in a season. But what would I get? You know, will we both get 20 goals? No chance, because that's not the kind of player he is. So I kind of felt a little bit, I remember him coming in, obviously a good player, but again, it's like, it's not that partnership that you're looking for. And I was always hoping to get a partnership that I'm looking for. And I went in and I said to him, look, Gaffer, Jason Roberts is available. You should get him. You really should get him. I was there with him at Rovers. Unbelievable power, pace. The guy will score goals for fun. And it'd be great for me to have a partner like him. And it's like, okay, I'll think about it, whatever. And then it became reality. They went and got him and he came and I was like buzzing. I was so buzzing because the minute he got through the door, I was like, that's it. This club, I'm telling you, these players are unbelievable. Now with you and me, it's over. That's what I was saying. Like, we just kill it. And we obviously went off and killed it. The first, like the end of that season, we both ended up with around 10 each. And we just missed out on getting into the playoffs because he got himself suspended for a red card and we ended up playing without him. And that game, we ended up not winning or something. And we ended up not getting the amount of points we needed to get in the playoffs. And I think obviously you would have not been happy to have missed the game, the vital game where we would have definitely needed him to push on. But I remember the next season, it's funny because he said, because I was the penalty taker, because obviously I was there in it, that's me. And from the days of Bristol Rovers days, I learned this penalty style, which was the Eric Cantona style of penalties. And it came from Nick Culkin. He used to be at Man United and he came to Bristol Rovers as a goalkeeper. And I remember we were doing penalty practice and I missed like my first 5 penalties. And he says, look, Nath, Cantona used to do it like this. There's another thing though in my head is the minute he told me that, I took it straight on board and I practiced. I did about 50 penalties with him straight after he showed me, and I scored 50 penalties.
What was the technique?
Man, that's mine. No. To be fair, what it is, you run dead straight up to the ball. You don't need to look at the ball because the ball's not moving and you're straight. You watch the goalkeeper only. I kind of made a little bit of a change to it to be like for mine, to make my own little spin on it. But I run up to the ball, and as you're about to kick the ball, the keeper's going to move because he can't move as you've kicked the ball to save the ball in a corner. When you watch a keeper who, when he saves a ball, if someone hits it hard in the corner, they've already gone. Yeah, they've already gone to that corner. So if you're running and you just look at the player, the keeper in goal, he's moving. He's got to move. So when he's moved, you just slot it the other side. So if he doesn't move, you can slot it in the corner because he can't get there. It's impossible for the keeper to get there if you slot it in the corner and he's standing still because he can't dive in time. So you can choose your corner before. If he doesn't move, I've chosen my corner. But if he does move, I'm just slotting it the other side of it. So even if a keeper leans like this, he can't get 1 meter to the left, the other side. So you can slot it 1 mile an hour past him on the left side because he's just leaned to the side. So that's what I used to do. I practiced it, and I never missed a penalty from then on in my pro career. Never missed a penalty again from then onwards, to be honest. And that comes back to we're moving to, I'm there, scored every penalty since Liddell stopped playing. Actually, that's when Liddell actually left the club at that time. And that was the time for me to then take over on penalties. But he says, no, Nath, I'm pulling rank here. I'm the penalty taker. I'm like, how can you do that? You've just come to my club and you're going to take the penalties. That's not fair. So I said, look, let's work out some system here. I said, look, if I get taken down, I'm taking my penalties. If you get taken down, you take your penalties. If anyone else gets taken down, you're taking them penalties. But the minute you miss a penalty, it goes the other side. You'll take your own, I'll take my own, but I'm taking the teams as well, like anyone else. So we started, he scored the first penalty, and the second penalty he missed. I was like, okay, Jace, it's my turn now. I'm taking the penalties, and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be missing. So it's going to be mine from then on. So throughout the season, I was scoring my penalties. And then there was a time where we hit a little run where I don't think he scored in a few games. And I think I scored a couple goals in that one game. And I could have taken it and the other one to score the third and win and get my hat trick. But again, like I said, when you've got a partnership, like people who want the best for each other and people who know each other's game enough that you go, okay, he just wants the ball through on goal. I'm going to put him through. I need to make sure he's bagging goals because that's going to be helping the team. So we got a penalty. It was my turn, but I gave it to him. I said, look, Jace, get your penalty, get back on the goal trail because we need you bagging and we need you with your mindset up back here. If both of our mindsets up here, it's over. You don't want anyone with lower on confidence. So gave him it. He took the pen. He scored the pen. We're back on the goal trail. We're both scoring goals again. And that's the ingredient for the vital ingredient for a partnership. You've got to have the ability first, but then you've got to want it inside to be able to help your teammate and hope you want as much for your teammate as you want for yourself. And I had as much pride in setting up a goal and as well as scoring. So that's how it felt. It's like, wow, me and you got this many goals. Unbelievable. We scored between us throughout our time between us. I think we must have scored about 30 goals each during our time together. I don't know how many games we played, but we scored 30 goals each easily between us. So I think we're probably one of the best partnerships outside the Premiership, for sure.
I want to focus a little bit on that 2004-2005 season for Wigan. Quite an historical moment for the club, the first time that they've reached the top flight division in the club's history. You finished top goal scorer in the Championship as well. I know Jason Roberts was definitely in the goals and amongst it as well. I think he was in the top three.
Yeah,
Big season, big history. Can you talk me through that year from a player's point of view and from a team's point of view?
Yeah, I think at the start of the second season, like I said, from the end of the season, Jason Roberts joined, and we pretty much got the most solid team you can ever have. Like, we were beating Premiership teams that season, and we were like, we know we're good enough to get to the Premiership. We just know we are. But then with the added play of Jason, and then we added Per Franson, then we added a few other players that were like really seasoned pros that were really going to Kavanagh. He came, so we knew we had like a great squad and a great team to be able to go and beat anyone in the league. And it was just week after week, we're just winning and winning and winning. And again, the little things. Again, we used to just go home after training and like play computer for a few hours. It used to be International Superstar Soccer, then like ISS.
ISS.
Yeah, and then it became PES. We were never into FIFA back then because that was the best game. And me and Jason and Jason Jarrett as well. There's three of us in Bolton. We called ourselves the Bolton Triangle. So us three, we all lived in the same apartments. We all drove in together, went home together, and we'd like make dinner, like obviously eat pre-match together and before we left. And we just play games and watch movies and go to, do what we're doing every day. So I used to be Man United, like I said, on the game, but I used to do loads of crazy skills on the game. And then I would say, I'm going to do that in the game. Like, I go to the game and we'll do like the celebrations that the game does. After I've scored, we'll do like the celebrations on the game. And then like I did the chop that Cristiano was doing, the chop all the time. Like, he used to run, and then that chop and then go the other way. And I remember we were playing Sheffield United. I was running, I got put through by Per Franson over the top, and I was running through. And who's the centre back now? He used to play for England. He's at Sheffield and at Everton now. He's not at Everton now, but what's his name? Anyway, so the defender.
You bugged me. What was his name?
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know you're talking about. Oh God.
He's at Sheffield centre back. He went to he went to Everton. I think he even went to Sheffield twice, maybe. He played for England as well. So anyway, he was the one who was with me, and I remember chopping him and he fell on the floor, and then I whipped it bottom corner. And this was just because it's FIFA, like, it's mad. I used to just do FIFA stuff like on the game, and I used to take it into the real life and go, I'm going to do that in the game, and I do it. And it's just weird that that's how we used to think, and because it was done on a game, I'll replicate it in a real game. And that's how we were. We were just high on confidence, just winning game after game, and just knowing we're heading towards something special here. We've just got to keep it going. And I think QPR away, halfway through the season, this shoulder fell out again. And I had to put that back again. So halfway through the season, I'm playing with no arm again. So that's why it was a bit of a struggle for me to play for the rest of the season. But I still ended up being top scorer in the league, so I was happy with that. And we ended up getting automatic promotion, not winning the league, because Sunderland won the league. Roy Keane took over that season and just blitzed it with them. And they won the league, but we came straight second. On the last day of the season, we made it impossible for Ipswich to be able to catch us. They had Marcus Bent and Shefki Kuchi up front, so they were really good up front as well. But I think we were just too good for them on the last day, and managed to win it. And that was it. We knew we were going to the Prem that day, and it was like the best feeling ever, scoring that third goal in the 3-1 win at home. And just knowing that top scorer, we've got promoted automatically. I got to get my shoulder sorted, but we're going to the Prem next season. That was the best feeling ever, because as a child growing up, it was all about watching the Prem and wanting to get to mix it with the Prem players, really. That was the main goal. And realising that was the best feeling ever.
Is it a worrying time for players when a team gets promoted? Because a lot of the players are at different ages, different stages of their career. The players that got you there might not necessarily be the players that you feel you need to compete at that level. Is it a worrying time for the squad? Has everyone got different thoughts and different sort of takes on things?
Yeah, there's definitely a worrying time for a lot of the players. I remember quite a few players moving on,
Yeah.
leaving, and I was like, "Where are you going?" Like, look, man, you know, they don't need me anymore, or whatever, or they're just not giving me a good enough contract, or I've got to go. I just got to go. And I was thinking, wow, this player's gone. They won't do that to me. I'm quite sure they won't do that to me. I've done pretty well here, and obviously players, and that's what led me to end up moving as well.
Really?
That's probably, yeah, I ended up moving because I signed at Bristol Rovers from Bristol Rovers to Wigan on that contract. I didn't ever get a new contract from that day till 3 years later when we got to the Premiership, and I had it in my contract to sign a new deal if we got promoted that season, the first season. So the season we got promoted, I had to get my shoulder operated on. And what happened was the chairman said he's not giving any deals out to anyone because we're now in the Championship, and he doesn't know if anyone's good enough to stay in the Championship, so he doesn't want to give anyone a new contract. Plus, Nathan, you're injured, so I can't get you a new deal. I'm like, but I played all season with my shoulder out, just so we can obviously get the maximum goals possible. And we win the league, and now you're saying you're not going to give me a new deal. So I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll prove that I can play in the Championship. So we played that season, like I said. Jason Roberts came at the end of that season. He was on, at that point, obviously you have increments growing up, but he was on double my wages when he signed. And he had it in his contract. If he get to the Premiership, his money would even go further up. So I seen his contract. We don't hide it from each other, kind of thing. So I knew that whole season, that the promotion winning season, that he was on double my wages. So I didn't mind because I was thinking, you know what, no problem. End of the season, we're going to go up. Then they'll give me a new deal. Great. And then they'll take into account the 2 years that they haven't given me a new deal for. And obviously being top scorer every season since joining, they should obviously think, okay, they're going to reward me. End of the season, we got promoted. I had my shoulder up again, fixed, sorted back, coming to get I ended up trying to get a meeting sorted with the chairman. And before the end of the season, he called me in his office on my own, try and basically put me down a bit, to say, you was not the best during the end of the season from halfway, from when from when my shoulder went and I had my strap back on. You weren't the best, blah, blah, blah. You weren't good. I said, I'm top scorer in the league, like the whole league with no shoulder. Like, and we've got promoted. Like, why are you saying this to me? Like, why are you telling me negative stuff for? And I felt like he brought me in to kind of scare me into feeling like I'm not done that well, and so then he can then set me up to give me a good deal. So I was upset from then. I was like, no, that's just wrong. That's wrong. But I seen some of these players moving. They moved on. So I knew that he's like a shark. And he's like a proper businessman, really good businessman when it comes to making money and doing well. He had assembled a great squad for the least money possible. And that's what he was known for. Wigan don't pay a lot of money, but they got a great team. So that's what he kind of thought, yeah, I need to make sure I continue this. And that's what he tried to do with me. So I was like, look, 2 years, I haven't had a new contract. I haven't said anything. I've kept quiet. I've just kept playing. Really? Yeah, now you're saying this to me. So anyway, I was upset. And then my agents come to meet him to negotiate a new deal. So we're there trying to negotiate a new deal, and he's not there. He's in Barbados. So I'm like, my agent's just come from London to Wigan, 5-hour journey, and he's not there. How can we negotiate? We can't negotiate. So we get a little bit of things like negotiated, but we can't complete it because we can't get hold of him. He's in Barbados. So they go home, and 2 weeks later, we set up another meeting because we need to get this sorted because it's a Premiership season now. I want to get a deal done. I've got a little boy on the way. And I'm like, look, I'm in my last year next year. I need to get something going. So I meet with my agents. They said, look, just don't bother signing a new deal. Play your last season and you play your season, and then at the end of that season, you'll have no contract. You'll be a Bosman. Remember, that was the name he was called back then, innit? You'll be a Bosman. And then you can do whatever. You can choose to stay, get a proper deal, or you can move on for whatever money you pretty much going to want. And I was like, look, I got to burn away. Like, I can't afford to play next season and risk getting an injury that may happen. And then what? I've got no contract, no money, no stability there. So I thought, I can't do that. I need a contract. In hindsight, I should have really left the last year and just played at Wigan. But again, he goes, look, if you don't sign, chances are he's probably going to not play you if he brings in another man. That was the thing where you mentioned there about the worry. It was, he brought in Henri Camara, good striker, very good striker, sharp as hell. And I was like, what if he just plays him all season because I didn't sign a new deal? Then I'm a player, not played in the Prem yet. No one's said I've proven myself and I've got no contract. How can I even go into that season where he could just do that to me? And I was thinking, I just need a deal. My agents come back the second week down the line. Man, chairman not there again. So I'm like, this guy's taking the mick now. Like, this is not fair. This is wrong. And what am I going to do? I can't sign a deal. They ain't giving me a deal. They given me a low deal and said that it was the most that the club's going to pay. I said, why are you lying? Jason Roberts' contract is there in my house. I can see what he's going to be on. And you're telling me that I'm going to be the top paid player in the club. It's like, is it? It's like, I know you know. And I know that this is taking the mick. Like, I'm top scorer in the league every season. I mean, in the team every season and top scorer in the league. And this is what you're going to offer me, even considering that I haven't had a new deal for 2 years. So I was like, this is really not great, is it? But let's try and get to some agreement. Anyway, nothing happens. And then I've got a clause from when I signed for 1.2 million. I had a clause in there saying 3 million release clause. So they thought, nah, nothing of it. 3 million, that's double his money anyway. It's not a problem. We'll put it in. 3 million and 1p was put in by West Brom. So I'm there going, okay, let me have a look at West Brom. Let me look at their squad.